2, 1.
The
Go.
general liability insurance, do you know what your SIR is?
I can find out.
Okay,
Off the top of my
is there a way, do you have more flexibility of changing carriers if it lowers the SIR as opposed to health insurance?
We could. We go through NYSER, which is one of the more cost-effective for all of Nassau and Suffolk County. NYSER winds up having, I think, almost all Nassau County schools except 2, I think it is. And what happens is it's a cooperative, and all the money's together, and it winds up getting cheaper rates going through NYSER with great coverage. We do have very good coverage through NYSER. I can find.
Yeah, but the coverage is great, but your SIRs tend to be higher.
I'll have
And
to
some-
check. Higher than what though?
I mean, if you get a smaller deductible with a different carrier that should provide the same type, because there's very few there's always the same carriers that provide coverage to districts
Mhm.
and schools and boards. There's not that many. There's like maybe a handful, like maybe
Right.
10, maybe 12.
There's not even.
There's
that
not
many.
even that many. I know that.
There's-
So
I think there's.
I know one of them
we're
is like
actually-
Nova, AIX, and there's also what do you call it?
Utica?
Utica stinks. If you have Utica, then I understand why there's really no coverage.
No, we
But
don't have Utica.
Utica is terrible.
We have NYSER.
But
New York
nice.
State Insurance Reciprocal Group.
And then, but that's. Did
That's
you
not
ever,
Empire.
I know it's not Empire,
No.
but would you consider, if I gave you the name of a broker, maybe contacting and speaking to the broker
Yes.
about, because then, at least knowing that, instead of having every year to go up in costs, and also,
Actually,
who
our-
negotiates with the attorney as to figure out what's included in the original retainer versus what's not
Well,
included?
what's going on right now is we actually have an RFP that we went out, request for proposal for council, that's due April 12th this year. And at that time, it's all negotiated. And the way the legal fees, going back to what we said, if we were to stay on the current contract we have, that's the rate that was going up. We were at the same rate for 2 years. Let's say it was $20,000 for general. After the third year was going up to 25,000. So it was as per the contract, if we stayed, that was gonna go up. We're going out for an RFP right now, also hoping to lower the rates.
And then the other thing I was talking about is
And
you
get
said that there was a
additional.
1 million or 1.9 million reserve figure for claims that were not covered by insurance.
144,000. 1.4 was the capital reserve. You're talking about the $144,000.
No, there was it was $1 million that you had in there to cover any of those, to represent the district for fees that weren't covered by
That's
insurance.
144,000. The one, you might also be thinking about the EBLAR that covers us in regard to the retirement. That's the 1.9 million you might be thinking of.
I gotta go back.
Go
'cause-
back, yeah.
I
I
mean-
don't have the reserve chart with me.
I've never noticed, it seems that this board,
That's
and
all
maybe
hasn't
I'm
changed.
wrong, I've never noticed how, years ago when Neil Brown was the president, it was before you, but Beth, you were here when Neil, I didn't really notice the attorneys sitting at the board. I know they were there, apparently they were there, but I didn't notice them.
Yeah.
Right, and when Wendy Gardula was president, occasionally she would go to the attorneys. I just feel like this board is very reliant on the attorneys. Does that have anything to do with costs going up? It just has to do with the contract being up?
That's a
Because it's
really
after
good
2
question.
years. Because it just
It's
seems to me, I
all-
never noticed
yeah.
attorneys before, and now it's every other thought seems to go to the
Whether we
attorneys.
had one attorney there or 5 attorneys there, it's all part of the
Yeah,
retainer.
but I think her question is, if the board keeps asking and emailing questions to attorneys, is that
And
included
foils.
in the original general, or is that in addition to?
The only thing that's in addition to are the items that we discussed
Okay,
earlier.
so if the board sends emails like legal question, that's included in the general?
That's included in the
Okay.
general.
But it's foils are outside, or you had mentioned real estate,
Real estate, yeah.
real estate, and now, is real estate having to do with leasing Fayette? What does like real estate have to do in?
If we
in terms of
purchase
school?
anything, if we were to purchase buildings, a lot of school districts purchase buildings for additional parking areas or different instructional areas and stuff like that.
But not here in North America, because we have no money, so.
They have a lot more money than us.
Right, so real
But
estate
It's a general
really,
retainer. The retainer that we have with Gercio's office, I'm under the impression it's the same exact retainer, just fees, the money retainer is different, is exactly the same. The exclusions are exactly the same, universal across the board in any district that you go to.
okay,
That's my understanding.
okay.
Okay, so,
Good to know.
thank you,
Yeah.
and please